This is the last gift I'll ever give you, my husband declares, his voice devoid of any warmth or empathy. As he slides the divorce papers across the table, the weight of his words crushes the air between us. He doesn't pause to let them sink in. Without hesitation, he reveals that he plans to marry someone else, all while stripping me of every ounce of significance I once held in his life, reducing me to little more than a financial instrument he's exploited for years. The man I once thought I knew, the man I thought I could trust, has shown his true face, a man driven by contempt, self-interest, and greed. In that moment, a fire stirs inside me, and I know without a doubt that this is the beginning of my path toward revenge. I'm Helen, and at 52 years old, I stand at a crossroads, my life forever altered. Tomorrow isn't just another day on the calendar, it's the day I will finally settle an old debt, one that has haunted me for years. Scott and I were together for 22 years, building a life that I thought was rooted in love, shared dreams, and mutual sacrifice. When we met, I was 32 and he was 34, two people at similar stages in life, looking for companionship. He owned a liquor store, a family business inherited from his late parents. I worked as a financial consultant, helping clients navigate the complexities of insurance and investments. Our relationship began casually, but it quickly grew serious. For a while, it felt like we had found something special, something real. The only doubt I harbored in the back of my mind was whether he would one day expect me to help run the liquor store. At the time, I was working my way up in my career. I had just started studying for a professional certification to further my ambitions, and my job was not only paying the bills but also fulfilling me in a way that was independent of Scott's business. When he proposed, he assured me that he supported my goals, that he understood my need for professional growth. "I know how much you've been working on your certification," he said, his voice sincere. "I want to help however I can." He had a staff at the store that handled the daily operations, and he encouraged me to focus on my own career, promising that he didn't need me to help with the business. It was one of the main reasons I agreed to marry him. He seemed like a genuinely supportive partner, always on my side, always putting my needs before his own. Our arrangement worked. I focused on my career while he managed the store, and for a while, everything felt perfect. But after the first year of marriage, things began to change. It happened on an unusually quiet afternoon. I had the day off and was cleaning under the bed when my vacuum pulled out a bundle of papers. We had only moved into this house 8 months ago, so I was surprised to find such a mess. I bent down to pick up a crumpled piece of paper, straightened it out, and froze. The bold letters at the top of the page sent a chill through me, reminder of payment. Below that, an outstanding debt of $320,000 in Scott's name was listed. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't some small, forgotten debt, it was a staggering sum, one that made my heart race. My mind went into overdrive as I wondered why he had kept something so serious hidden from me. Why hadn't he told me? When Scott returned home, I didn't waste any time. I confronted him immediately, the questions bubbling out of me. "What is this debt? Why didn't you tell me about this?" I demanded. He seemed unfazed, as if this was something he had been expecting. "It's not what you think," he replied quickly. "This debt was left behind by my parents." My mind raced as he explained that the debt wasn't personal but was tied to the liquor store, the business he had inherited. It was secured against both the store and our home. The amount was eye-watering, and Scott had no intention of giving up the inheritance, despite the crushing weight of the debt. I pressed him further. "But this is a payment reminder. Aren't you supposed to be making regular payments?" He nodded, though his expression was tight. "I make payments when I can, but some months the sales are slow. I have to prioritize the staff and ask creditors to hold off when things get tight." His explanation was logical in some ways, but the presence of a final notice on the letter left me uneasy. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want to stress you out," he said quickly, trying to brush away my concerns. "Don't worry, we're not in danger of losing the house. The business is doing fine. Look, we're still here." Despite his reassurance, the secrecy gnawed at me. I couldn't ignore the feeling in my gut that something wasn't right. Just as I was about to say something more, he surprised me with a suggestion. "If you're so worried about it, maybe you can help pay it off," he said, almost casually. "You're earning a decent salary, right?" I blinked, taken aback by the suggestion. It felt wrong. This wasn't my business, not my debt, but he pressed on. "My debt is your debt, too," he said, his tone suddenly serious. "If the store goes under, it's not just going to hurt me, it'll hurt the whole community. The business is important. It's more than just a store, it's a hub for the neighborhood. He wasn't wrong. The store was more than a liquor shop. It was a cornerstone of the local community. It offered fresh produce, meats, and fish, things that other stores in the area didn't. I'd seen it firsthand, bustling with customers who valued the convenience and service it provided. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Please, he continued, his voice earnest, I need your support. I'll keep running the business, but I need your help to keep it afloat. That's when it hit me. He wasn't just asking for help, he was subtly shifting the responsibility onto me. This was the beginning of the end of my trust in him. I had no idea then how much this moment would change everything between us. I had always known that money played a significant role in our lives, but that moment, the one where everything changed, made me realize just how deeply it had woven itself into the fabric of our marriage. For years, it seemed that financial stability was our driving force, the one thing we could count on. Yet, when I reflected on it, I saw how little we had actually lived beyond the numbers. We had never taken a vacation, never enjoyed a meal at a nice restaurant, never treated ourselves to the simple pleasures that many couples take for granted. The constant cycle of working, paying off debts, and surviving on the edge of financial stress had become the norm. Now, in our 50s, I thought that perhaps, finally, we might be able to step away from this constant pressure and indulge in those small, joyful experiences that others seem to savor so easily. The day the final payment was due, I decided to make it special. It wasn't just about the money, it was about marking the end of a long, exhausting chapter. I took the day off work, wanting to commemorate the occasion with something meaningful. I planned an elaborate dinner, Scott's favorite dishes, a bottle of wine, and his beloved chocolate cake for dessert. I set the table meticulously, the soft glow of candles casting a warm, inviting light over everything. I imagined us sitting down, sharing a quiet evening together, perhaps reflecting on the struggles we had overcome and the future we would now have, one free from the chains of debt. As I looked over the table, the carefully arranged dishes, the glasses sparkling in the light, I paused for a moment. It felt almost surreal. I couldn't help but reflect on the past 22 years we had spent together. In some ways, it felt as though time had crawled by, each year a battle to stay afloat, but in other ways, it had gone by in a flash. The years had melted together, marriage, work, financial struggles, and the fleeting moments of happiness that always seemed to slip through our fingers. It feels like it's been such a long time, but at the same time, it's as if the last 22 years have passed in the blink of an eye. Don't you think? I said softly, as Scott walked into the room. But as soon as he stepped inside, I knew something was wrong. His head hung low, his shoulders trembling, my heart skipped a beat. Was he overcome with emotion? Was he moved by the moment, perhaps finally feeling the weight of everything we had worked for? Or was something else happening? To my horror, he suddenly burst into laughter, a cruel, hollow sound that echoed in the room. It wasn't the laughter I knew. There was no warmth in it, no joy. It was cold, derisive, and unsettling. What's going on? I asked, my voice trembling with both confusion and concern. Are you okay? His laughter only grew louder, more manic, and with it came words that shattered everything I thought I knew. You're dismissed now, he said with an eerie calm, his voice as cold as ice. I'm grateful to you for these past 22 years. Thanks to you clearing my debt, I'm a free man. Good job, I don't need you anymore. His words hit me like a physical blow, each one sinking deep into my chest. What are you talking about? I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. I couldn't make sense of it, couldn't understand why he was speaking to me like this. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into his bag, pulled out a document, and tossed it onto the table in front of me with a force that made the papers flutter. The divorce petition. The bold, stark words on the page were almost too much to bear. It was as if the universe had decided to turn every part of my life upside down in one cruel, swift motion. This, he said with chilling detachment, is my final gift to you. His smile was smug, almost triumphant, as he continued, I've decided to marry someone else. You're no longer useful to me. Thanks for being my personal cash machine. The words were like daggers, each one cutting deeper than the last. I fought to keep my composure, to not let him see the devastation in my eyes, but I had to know. Are you getting remarried? I demanded, my heart racing. The pieces were beginning to fall into place, and they made my stomach churn. Have you been cheating on me all this time? His smirk never wavered, his eyes gleaming with an unsettling sense of superiority. "I haven't been unfaithful," he said coolly. "I've already found my next wife. I waited for you to clear my debt before I could divorce you and marry her." The absurdity of it all overwhelmed me. All those nights he had come home late, all the work excuses, the social events I never questioned, it all made sense now. I had been nothing more than a means to an end. The beautiful dinner I had so carefully prepared seemed to blur before my eyes as tears welled up. I felt them, hot and heavy, threatening to fall, but I couldn't let him see them. "Get out," he snapped, thrusting the divorce papers toward me as if I was nothing more than an inconvenience. My blood boiled, and with it came a surge of anger, fiercer than any sadness or regret that had threatened to take over. "Fine," I said, my voice low and seething with rage, "but you'll regret this." He waved me off dismissively, his gaze cold. "No, I won't. Why would I regret divorcing an old hag like you?" The insult stung, but I couldn't help but find a sliver of humor in his words. If I was an old hag, what did that make him? An old fart, I thought bitterly, a fleeting amusement giving me just enough strength to steady myself. I took the divorce papers from the table and looked him in the eye, my voice steady, though my heart was anything but. "I'll be keeping these for now." With that, I gathered my things. The home we had shared for 22 years, our home, suddenly felt like a stranger's house. The end of our marriage, the final severing of ties, had come so abruptly that I was left in a daze. Alone in the silence, I let the tears fall. They were tears of anger, of loss, of confusion, but most of all, they were tears of finality. The life I thought I had, the love I thought I shared, was gone, and now, I was left to pick up the pieces of a life I had spent years building, only to watch it crumble into dust.